And we're live. Welcome, everybody. Lee,
All
Anthony,
right.
welcome.
Hey,
Glad
I
to
would
be
just
here.
like to point out that Anthony and I have changed names now and careers. Uh,
We've
Not on,
switched.
not on my screen. Oh wait, you did. What the hell?
hello, I'm Anthony Fortner.
The joys of
You out.
life. Hey,
Maybe
look.
you just have to be me the rest of the day, and I'll be Lee. I'll figure it out.
Good luck.
So on the last episode of a card, welcome to the Star Trek Online show. Actually, I think it's a real show. Yeah,
Gene
Stoked. That's what it's
Roddenberry or
called.
something.
No, it's a podcast. Well, it's an old podcast that used to follow the game Star Trek Online.
Nice.
So that really exists. I accidentally
Yes,
made up a
Star
fake
Trek
thing that's
Online
real.
is a thing. My son used to play it. I played it for a little while. It's kind of fun.
I mean, anything with Star Trek and online, I'm those two words I'm in. It's sounds like a blast. All right. So, how's how's everybody's weeks this past week? We had obviously a little longer time off for Turkey Day. What'd you guys do? Anything fun?
I ate a lot. It was good. Food was good. Time off is good.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure. And then as you guys know, I'm on the mend, so uh,
Yeah.
it's been nice. I'm still having a little bit of trouble breathing and all that good stuff, but every day is a little bit better. So
That's good.
it's getting to
Yeah.
the point where my ribs aren't always hurting really bad from the extra effort.
You seem like you're doing better, so that's a good thing. Yeah, I mean, Anthony just said. I mean, I'm enjoying the extra time off. The 2 days we're gonna, we'll have 4 days off. My company is basically worldwide. So while I've been off the last 2 days, other parts of my company have just kept moving.
Mm.
Um, so that's been interesting. But same thing. I mean, they have holidays in the UK, and I'm sure in Australia too. And so when they take off, we keep working here in America. So
Yeah.
we got to work around it. Um, but yeah, it's been good. Had a lot of good food. My wife made an amazing macaroni and cheese. So
Nice. And so
uh,
Fortner first says one of us is echoing, by the way. And I hear it as well after I talk. So 1 second. I think it's actually yep, that's me. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for letting us know.
yeah, thank you.
It was my tab from my Twitch stream that I have open of us talking. Anyway,
Yeah,
Yeah, I basically
one day.
the big thing for me was just enjoying being around, quote
Yep.
unquote. Most days, even on the weekends, there's more than one thing that I'm thinking about that, projects have to be get done, multiple projects. And even though you're off the clock, sometimes you're still kind of on upstairs and
Yeah.
nothing exploded. So I got to actually be around. I played a few games. We had a 007 GoldenEye
Oh
marathon
God,
open
that's
last
awesome.
night.
Like
It's
N64
always
original,
awesome.
or do you have like an
The
emulator?
original,
God, I hate
no
you.
original. No, and then we had the right number of people, which there's a different number of people playing.
Yeah.
So we had 7 people playing, which means 4 chairs, 4 people playing, and then winner stays, everyone walks, right?
It's awesome.
And so other 3 people keep switching. And then it was kind of exciting last night because well, I personally like this. Not everyone, some people get frustrated with this, but I had 2 boys who kind of hogged the number 1 spot, and then the other 3 just keep trying to dethrone them. So that's always fun. I prefer that challenge. That's
Yeah.
what's good for me.
yeah,
So the winner stayed, you said. So
Yes.
I like
And
that.
so you have to and they also get to pick the setup. So they can pick what they're good at, and then it makes it that much harder to dethrone them.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
So that's what we did last time.
Yeah.
A lot of times I
Sounds
like to
fun.
play other things like Terminator mode and all that. I enjoy the meta games, so to speak. So
Nice. Yeah, we've done something similar with Mario Kart at family Thanksgiving a couple years ago. Yeah, I always enjoy whenever, especially if it's people that don't play games a lot. Like you get your aunts or your uncles in that are little older than us, and they jump on Mario Kart or something. It's like, this is funny to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Or Lee, I don't know if you play
Yeah,
video
I mean,
games.
if I jumped in a game with Skyrim or something else, or what was the other thing you had up last week?
Oh, Destiny.
Pretty much, yeah. Anything outside of college football on the PS3, I
Oh
would
yeah,
suck.
play some.
Oh
What was that,
yeah,
Madden, or what do they have? NC
it's NCAA
Sports Ball.
college,
Sorry.
football 13. I have Madden and I've played a little bit of it. I don't find it as fun.
Yep.
But
Can you explain the difference? I'm really curious. I don't play the sports video games, so
I think it's a slight difference in the controls that I'm struggling to master, and maybe just differences in the playbook. I mean, obviously between college and pro, it's not going to be the same, but I don't know. It's taking me. It took me longer to try to get the feel for the controls, and there's like a ton more menus and places to go to try to do things in Madden.
all the controls.
And
Those games are
Yeah.
really complicated, aren't they? They're kind of almost simulations now, right?
I
yeah,
think they're getting pretty more and more complicated as far as, if you want to do change up your play in the middle or something like that, and I've seen some
yeah, you
crazy
can call
things.
audibles and all of this kind of stuff in college and pro, of course. The one thing I found weird is, and I haven't played it in so long, I can't tell you the name that I'm
That's
about
my
to say, but
beard.
there's a section of the Madden game where there's like it's named two things that are similar, but
Yeah.
only one of those two things actually takes you to a game that you've already saved or that you want to continue, like in your season. So that's also frustrating because I couldn't ever remember the right place to go to actually start playing, and I would get frustrated by
Yeah.
that. But yeah, anyway,
I remember
Get Lee as a
this is
beta tester.
yeah, he doesn't even know it. I remember back in the day, me and my little brother, we had different tastes in video games, but he preferred the sports games 100% all the time. He was playing something, usually something by Madden or EA or whatnot. But like I remember some of them I got started to get a little bit interested in because, and I don't know if this is still something that happens. It could have been an older game, but like he was building his own team, like he was trading players and adjusting stats and doing like the micromanagement.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I could see that not being popular with people, but like for me, like it almost got me interested. I'm like,
You're like,
can
that's the
I,
cool
can I,
part of
can I,
it.
yeah, like can I run the team and like manipulate
Mm.
things and then you actually
Yeah.
pull it off? Like, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
You're
there's
like,
a
I want to be a
management
business
aspect to
manager.
Madden.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
So, and I kind of enjoy that part. On the college football game, I really get into the recruiting, and
Uh,
so I like that a lot. The recruiting part and building your team, getting your players that you want for the right positions that you're interested in,
yeah,
and
I
that
can get
sort of
behind
stuff.
that.
But
I can get behind that 100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
so good times. I also play Age of Empires. That's a really old game, but it's one that has endured.
Yeah.
Is
So
that PC?
yes,
Is that okay?
yeah,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely been around.
Some of those have stuck around, and still
Some of
have a
those
good
are they're
following.
big enough that some of those are big enough that the new apps, little cheapo apps that come out that copying things
Yeah.
are clearly still copying it.
Yeah, they're just
That's
like
how you
Yeah.
succeeded,
hoarding
and
it.
people are copying you 20 years later and
Mhm.
like still only half as good as you are.
Yeah, look at
That's one
Doom.
definition of success.
Doom, the video game, is what almost every first-person shooter is based on, and it's
Yeah,
30 years ago
it was
now.
it was groundbreaking. That and
Mhm.
Wolfenstein was like the beginning, wasn't
Yeah,
it? They're both it.
Wolfenstein. I forgot if it was Wolfenstein or Doom that came out first. I think it was Wolfenstein.
I think it was Wolfenstein, but I don't actually know. I feel like I remember reading something talking about how they pulled off multiplayer, and that was in Doom first.
Oh yeah.
But,
See, I used
and
to
then
play
another,
Quake back in the day.
yeah,
First
and then
multiplayer game I played online was Quake.
the third one that
4.
comes to
I
mind
think it was.
for those old ones was Hexen.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I played Exxon.
I don't know who made that.
Uh,
What about Duke Nukem? I remember
Yes.
playing that
Yeah.
like years and years ago. A friend of mine had it, and he was showing it to me. We played a little bit.
Yeah, I think that one came out right after Doom, or right around the
Well,
same
yeah,
time.
I couldn't.
They were
I didn't
pretty similar.
discover it until I got it. Like I think I got it at a garage sale for the N64. I think it was N64. So
Yeah. Uh,
back in the
I
heyday.
played
So
it
I
on
couldn't
a
tell you.
a floppy disk. So
Oh, the save icon. Yeah.
yes, the save icon. I made it on a 3D printed save icon.
Ah, the save icon.
So 3D printers back there. It's 3D
That's
printer.
great.
But no, I was gonna say you talking about sports actually leads me into my discussion today of imposter syndrome. Um, if we have anything else, we can keep going, or else do you want me to just start jumping
Oh,
into it, or do
I'm
you want
good.
to?
Yeah.
We about good?
If you got that urge, let's go.
Well, I thought it was funny because as a Midwestern man, I feel it's like general knowledge that someone would look at me and be like, "Oh, he knows sports. He has a beard. He's has he has tattoos.
Beard, tattoos. You can remodel
Yeah.
my engine and
Yeah,
tell
beard
me
and
all about the
tattoos
sports
in his
ball.
mid-30s in the Midwest. You know about sports. Yeah, I don't know about sports.
Mhm.
I blend in to pretend like I know about sports. But in that case, it's not imposter syndrome. I'm a true straight up imposter in there. People talk, and I always throw out because there's always at least one other person in the group that's doing the same thing. So I'll always throw out sports ball. I was like, sports ball.
Yeah.
And there's always that one person that's like,
Nods. Yep.
yes. And I'm like, we'll play along, but I don't know. It's never been a huge passion for me. I like going to baseball games, stuff like that, but not like following sports. I don't play sports video games. Unless, like a buddy wants to play or something, sure. But I don't do it for my own recreational fun. But, I always feel like I have to be that guy. It's like, well, it's easier to just play along than it is to explain that I can be a guy in my 30s with the beard and tattoos and not like sports. And then they're like, well,
It's
why?
okay.
Why don't you like sports? I'm like,
What?
too
You don't
much
like
work.
sports? You want them to go away? It was the same thing in my 20s when like I told people I didn't really drink. Same
Yeah.
thing. Like I started having to say I'm not bringing back prohibition. I'm not. You go ahead and drink. It's cool, dude.
Mhm.
It's okay that I don't. Like it's not
Yeah.
a big deal.
Yeah, same. Yeah. And that's it always makes me laugh because like I said, there's always that one other person that's like, I get it. We're all pretending, which
Yeah.
does bring into the imposter syndrome. Again, in that case, straight up imposter, I just have to pretend. But with the imposter syndrome, it's the feeling that you're the only one pretending. So you have this feeling that you are the imposter. You're a fraud in either your business, in your professional business or personal, just as likely. But it's that feeling that one day you're going to get that email or, that knock on the door that someone says, hey, we found out everything that you don't know what you're talking about. And we're going to put you in a job salary that more fits you. Like, you're always waiting for that. And you're like, I think I could pretend through one more day. And that's not, for, like we said, real imposters. This is imposter syndrome. This is, despite all of your degrees you have, your experience you have, your accolades from work, your professional and personal accomplishments that all point to, hey, no, you should be exactly where you're at. You're doing on par, perfect. You did all this stuff behind you. You're where you're supposed to be. But in your head, you only focus on the negative that you've done in your career. You don't think about, well, I got 3 degrees, I got this, I got blah, blah, blah. Because you look at yourself as one lower than anyone else around you. So you're always the bottom tier. Everybody you look at around you knows what they're doing. You're sitting in a meeting with 20 people, and you just feel so overwhelmed because you have no clue why you're sitting in this meeting. You might know what's going on. You might have valid input. But it's still the fact of, why are they coming to me for this valid input? Why do they feel I'm a subject matter expert when in reality, based on your past and your accolades, you are a subject matter expert and you are very well qualified, but you don't feel that. And then, like I said, it can be in professional or in personal, and I'm obviously going to focus more on the professional here. I will bring up a story that kind of follows some things. I did a lot of research on this, but it kind of follows some things that other people said about their personal life. And mine is the best example I have is my wife. I look at my wife, and I do not feel qualified to be married to her. She's way out of my league. I mean, that have met her and know her probably would agree with that. She's
Great.
smarter than me, prettier than me, funnier than me. That's just how it goes. Now,
Her beard is better than yours.
Yes,
Got to leave there.
Yeah.
I
There's a
hope
lot
that
of
she doesn't
there's a
know
lot of
your
tracks.
address, Anthony.
There's a lot of tracks I can go with on that, and I'm just gonna be like, we'll leave that. But overall, she's a much better person than I am, and I look at her, and I have to remember that, despite all my flaws, she also chose me. We have to remind ourselves that we didn't just choose this person and they're stuck with us. They also chose you despite my flaws. I chose her despite hers. And if you don't remind yourself of that, you're always going to be waiting for that day that they're going to find out you're a fraud. I'm just me, And in reality, that's just me is obviously why she married me, but we can't see that as easy because we see everything about ourselves.
Yeah.
We know every negative thought we have in our head. We know every mistake we've made.
Yeah.
Every mistake that we think we've made that may not have even been a mistake.
And we dwell on our mistakes. We replay them in our heads over and over. When you're going to sleep and you're thinking, it was so dumb. Why did I do that today at work? Or in marriage, whatever you're doing. But you dwell on those mistakes and you make them making a mountain out of a molehill. They become such big issues in your own head. When in reality, no one probably even noticed you made that mistake. Or if they did, they were like, it's fixed. Who cares? Like, it's done. Like, it's a professional world. We make mistakes, usually every freaking hour of the day. That's our field. Some of them small, some of them bigger, but to me, if I cost someone 5 minutes of their time in their day because I made a mistake, to them, they don't care. They're like, yeah, that's 5 minutes. Like, yeah, it happens. Thanks for whatever you did. That was additional to that was actually good. And as the imposter syndrome sets in, it says, yeah, you helped them. Put that in the back burner. We don't care about that. You cost them 5 minutes of their day. And you're like, God, man, I could have done that 5 minutes quicker and they could have been out of there. And when you start to dwell on that stuff, that's whenever it starts getting into your psyche of, everyone else is better than me. And how do I pull out of this thought process?
Yeah, it doesn't usually stay at the I burned 5 minutes of their day or
Yep.
It's down because of me. It usually ends up being, I bet so and so could have done this, or if I was a real insert your job title here.
Yes. If I was a real software engineer, I could have probably knocked that out in half the time. I just don't know what I'm doing half the time. And in reality, we know what we're doing. What we all do here is hard. It's difficult. Most people's jobs are difficult. That's why you get paid for them. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And at first, starting to do this research on it, and I started researching this, say about 2 years ago, whenever it was brought to me actually by a colleague, big guy that used to work at the same place we did, worked across the hall from where I coded. You guys know him as the big guy, but he brought it up to me, and we had some good talks about it, and it helped me realize that I thought this was just me. I thought I was the one that was like, how am I sitting in this position in my job and no one's calling me out? Like I'm a software developer. Like no one's telling me I'm not. Like I don't know why no one's calling me out on me making money. Is it in my brain? That's how it works. So after doing research, I found out that 70% of people in the professional world actually feel imposter syndrome on a regular basis. And we're going to talk about the other 30% here in a little bit, but 7 out of 10 people on a regular basis feel imposter syndrome. And obviously that's going to change day to day. If you have a light workload or you just finished a project that you've been working on, if you had a huge contribution into something, it obviously lightens that tension for a minute. It makes you feel like you really did do something, and you want to ride that high as long as you can. But again, one of the problems is that the more successful you are, the more questions you ask yourself of, did I get successful through stuff I did, or was this just like luck? Did I know someone? Did I actually do all this work? Yeah, was I just in the right place? Like, do I actually deserve this credit, or is it more just a team effort? Like, good job, everybody. That's fine. And you try to downplay all this stuff, that this work you've done, all this stuff you've done in the in your past career. You try to downplay it, and you try to say, yeah, it wasn't that hard. I just knocked it out. Or, oh, it was a whole team effort. We did great. All of us, we did a good job. You guys. And usually it turns into pulling a compliment off yourself and giving it away. You don't want that. It's hard to handle that compliment as something that you actually feel you were a major cog in the wheel. I'll take an example, Lee. We did that data migration. That was a pain in the ass to do all those servers.
Yeah,
it was actually kind of fun because we were able to hang on a weekend and do server things, and we were the subject matter experts.
That's right, we were.
Yes, and it was us three. Pete, I think, was also in that group. But in that series, I think I brought up to you a couple times, both of you, and I'm like, I'm just here to do what you guys need because I have no clue what's going on. That's like my number one freaking phrase, I feel like, is I have no clue what's going on, but what do you guys need? I'm here. And, and that's something I need to get better at because, if you have imposter syndrome, which we all do, it's not a
maybe
question.
When you experience
yeah, when you experience imposter syndrome. Yes. You have the pretty much the inability to admit that you're doing something right. So whenever you guys bring me into the fold, and we're doing discussions about data migrations or SQL stuff, in my head I'm like, I'm not a data guy. Like, I am kind of, but I'm like, I'm like, I don't know much of SQL. And then I talk to other people in my in the same level of career path, than my peers. And they're like, you do what in SQL? I'm like, oh, just like the basics, like writing stored procedures and triggers and stuff like that. Nothing insane. They're like, yeah, we don't touch that at all. I'm like, oh. So, you have to reevaluate compliments you've gotten in the past and say, was that actually a valid compliment? And they were actually acknowledging that I know what I was doing. I'm like, And then as you look back, you can start to accept some of those as, okay, I was being dumb. That was a good accolade for me. That was a big project. That was really cool that we knocked all that stuff out and pretty much low hitch. Not much of an issue that went on. Little tiny little hiccups as always, but nothing crazy. But so that's also something to remember, is that always reevaluate compliments you've got in the past when you're no longer in a state of feeling that imposter syndrome.
One thing I want to mention is, so you said that the phrase that you told yourself, or well, not you told yourself, you told others, but you kind of were telling yourself, oh, I don't know what's going on, but just tell me what you need. Yeah. What you don't realize, though, while I'm asserting you don't realize, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I feel like, because I we were working together at the time, and I knew a lot about your role. You actually trained me up to work on your role, actually, in the early days.
Yep.
There's a lot of ambiguity, right? There's a lot of unknowns, and that actually you need to be strong in a situation where you're going to get a ticket or worse. Every once in a while, you get a flood of tickets, right?
Yeah.
What just happened? There's no playbook. There's no. senior architect to say, hey, here's the 5 things that just happened
Yeah.
have happened at the same time.
In that
And
situation, here's what we do. No, there was none of
right, it's not there. And so you were living that every day. And
Mhm.
I feel like maybe there's a chance that you kind of took that to heart, but backwards, and said, oh, I never know what's going on.
Yeah.
You survived, even though your role was to deal with situations that just shocked everyone else. That would just,
Yeah.
there's
Big.
no plan, there's no
What
sprint,
was,
there's no
what was
whatever.
it they used to
Yeah.
do? The all hands. Every
All
now
hands.
and then our VP would, and this is for chat. This was Anthony and Lee at a place we worked. Our VP would do a all hands,
Mhm.
kind of everybody work on incoming issues, get them fixed. And it was funny because during those all hands, I feel like everyone was freaking out about the issues. They're like, oh my God, this guy's doing this and this one's going down. And this, I'm like, I mean, this is just every day. Like, I just need an extra hand so I can clear a couple extras out.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? I don't know what's going on. I'm like, cool. None of us do. Appreciate it. It makes me feel actually a lot better.
Yeah. So I had a few comments as you were talking earlier, just describing imposter syndrome, your experience of it. What is it, and that sort of stuff. Those sorts of concepts and ideas. So I thought about fear and safety in the workplace.
Yep.
And I don't mean like I'm afraid my coworker is going to attack me. I mean fear of being found out, not feeling safe, that it's okay to make a mistake
Yes.
or
Mm-hmm.
several
Yep.
mistakes.
And that gets into so I have a list here of, if you don't know if you're experiencing imposter syndrome, I kind of wrote up a couple traits or things that may happen if you are experiencing it. First, overall, you don't feel you earned what you had or what position you're at. You don't feel like you've earned it. And you actually believe this. It's not like a thought of, maybe I don't. It's you actually believe, like, how did the events of my past transpire so much that I'm sitting right here in a room full of all these smart people? And, you have to think about it, and you're like, but I'm sitting in this room with all these smart people. So something went right. We don't know what. Again, your brain is just like, whatever. But no, and then that pushes for the second one is, usually if you're someone who regularly has imposter syndrome, you strive for perfection because you're so far, I don't want to say brainwashed, but you know what I mean. Like, you're so far entangled in your own brain that you feel you don't belong there. So you strive to be that person that belongs there. When in reality, you're striving more than your peers because you think they already are good. So I got to work harder than them to get where they are. When in reality, you're at the same level, but just how it goes.
You don't realize it.
Yes, and in that way also, most people, they strive for this this perfection, so that when it comes down to someone giving you a compliment or saying, you did a good job, you can attribute that to the amount of hours you put in training. It's not what you did. It's not your past experience. It's, yes, I put in X amount of hours. Here's your results. That makes sense. I don't have to feel anything about this. That's 10 hours for work. They're done. That's the hard work. When in reality, it's actually your 10 years of experience that you've just used, and you looked up 4 things. Like, it's, and then, at the same time, if you do strive for that perfection and always put in that hard work, you feel you can always give it as a team compliment. Very rarely do we do something in the IT world alone. We usually have a partner to back up, or someone above us that we can ask. We're usually pretty collaborative in IT. And when you put in as much work as you possibly can, then you can attribute and say, yes, I did my hard work, but so did my teammate because we accomplished it. So it must be a team accomplishment because if I did the really hard work, everybody did at least that much in my mind when I'm saying this, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, if I put in 10 hours, everybody else put at least 10 hours in, probably more because, you know, they're all way more successful than I am. So this is, you know, these are just things that go through your head. And I want to bring these out because I want them to be known as normal. Like it's not weird to think that. It's pretty normal to not think that you're the one that's providing value.
Yeah, I've seen some high up people, people who are very senior and
Mhm.
on LinkedIn or giving or talking at conventions, and they mention it too because they're like, if I'm still experiencing it, it's not that weird, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody's watching looks up at them and like, no, you're, you know, whoever. I don't want to drop
Yeah.
random names. So, yeah, I mean, you look
And
at celebrities, basically.
I've seen. Yeah, I was just going to point out you mentioned celebrities, so people that certainly Anthony and I, and maybe you, Grady, know as what I'll call sequel famous people
Mm-hmm.
will put something on Twitter about how, hey everybody, I just spent 3 hours troubleshooting something, and it was a missed quote in the sequel, or it was whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it always?
Right.
Yeah. Yes, it's always the
No, for us,
always
it's
the missing quote in the
semicolons.
sequel. I hate quotes in sequel. But I always smile, probably outwardly, when I see that, because I'm like, yes, they do it
Yes.
too.
They are people. They are normal people.
It's okay for me to struggle with
Yes.
this
Which
because
exactly, and that's
insert sequel
why
famous person also
yeah,
struggles.
it should be a normalized thing to say we make mistakes in IT. Like I don't know why that's so taboo to admit, or just in general. I think as people, like it's okay as people that we make mistakes, and we can learn from them, or we can keep
Yeah.
repeating them and not learn from them. But you know that brings into number 3 what Lee was talking about. My next one was you're in fear that someone will expose you as a fraud.
Yeah.
Despite your achievements, your degrees, your accolades, someone's going to call you out and say, "Why are you in your position?" When in reality, no one's ever going to do that unless you become a VP or something like that. Even then, no one's going to say anything because people are
Because
by
you're the
nature
VP.
non-controversial. Words.
Confrontational.
Words are
That
hard.
one. And then that also plays into the fear of failure, and that
Yeah.
can be a positive or negative. Positive being obviously you're going to work harder. You're going to try your best not to fail more than someone who isn't feeling this. Usually, someone with imposter syndrome does perform better under pressure. Performs better last minute tasks because you don't want to be exposed. So anything that needs to be tied up at the end, like right before deployment or release or anything, you're getting done because you feel like if you don't, you're going to be called out. And you're like, in reality, everyone's like, I don't know what the hell Lee's doing. He just does all his magic and stuff works. Lee's like, if I do this wrong, someone's going to call me out. No.
Exactly.
Like, none of us know what
It's
you
like-
do.
It's almost like some really good qualities, really good tasks that you should do
Hey,
in your
Cave.
mind are in your mind bad when actually those are good practices, like
Yes.
checking everything one more time,
Mhm.
shoring this up, testing this real quick. That's all actually good ideas, things that you should definitely do. Should be standard operating procedure.
Yeah.
But instead, in your mind, you're like, I'm only doing this because I'm scared and I don't know what I'm doing.
When in reality, yeah. When, like you
Yeah.
said, that's what should be happening anyway, and it's actually perfectly proper procedure, and you're doing it the same way that the next person would have done. And then we kind of talked about number 5 already. Having difficulties with praise and criticism. Praise we talked about. We're not. We downplay a lot of things when someone says, hey, good job, or this project really, because of Lee, this project was implemental to the company's growth. Lee, in response, would say, you know, it was really a team effort.
Probably.
That would be the typical IT response because you're like, well, they did most. Like they did it. Like I just ran it. Like
Yeah.
the thing, like
Well,
your
I might
excuses
say,
will
well,
be
I
great too.
appreciate that, but I couldn't have done it without everyone else.
Yeah.
Which
It's I mean,
true,
which is
but it's
true.
still
Yeah.
yeah. But it's still me not accepting the compliment.
Yeah.
In some form. Um,
It's downplaying the compliment as
Yeah.
saying, you know what, I'm not a sole contributor. When in reality, what they really meant was, if we didn't have Lee, this wouldn't have happened. Which means you are
yeah.
truly a sole contributor to their compliment of you. You know.
You were a
Yeah.
critical part of the success.
Yes. You are one of the bigger cogs in the wheel that we needed.
You're a big cog.
You're a big cog.
I heard him call you that.
I'm a big cog. That's maybe the nicest thing I've been called in a
There
while.
you
I don't know.
It's gonna be your
Ooh.
new gaming tag. Big
Been a
cog.
rough year.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we should call me Big Cog
Oh
now.
god.
No, don't do that. Um,
I mean, nicknames have been born worse ways.
but yeah, totally. I mean, people have a hard time, me included, accepting compliments. And I think it's because, well, lots of reasons, but, for me, there are two things come to mind for me. So this goes back from years ago when I was first trying to get into my first real job. It wasn't a dishwasher at the local restaurant or local hospital. I was interviewing, and I didn't have good interview skills at the time. I didn't know how to like brag about myself. I didn't know how to talk about my accomplishments and what I was good at. In fact, at that point, I'm not even sure I knew what I was good at.
Yeah.
And it was really, it was painfully obvious. And so, because I tried to be a humble person, I have a certain background that leans me in that direction. And it also leans me in the direction of, I don't want to take credit for anything because it's not about me.
Yeah.
And, while I can respect that, on the flip side, some things are about me. I mean, going back to the project that we talked about, the migration happened because I pushed for it. And
yeah, that was like your whole entire
months
thing.
Months on that.
Yeah, I did.
Everyone's like, we don't need that, and he's like, you need so much more.
Yeah, you need so much more. But I reached out. One of the things that I found that as a strength is for me is I reach out and I grab the person or people that I need that have the skills to get something done that I don't have.
Yep.
So like I reached out to project coordinators or product owner people who could push the ball for me in meetings that I wasn't in.
Yeah.
I get them on my side, so to speak. I tell them why it's important that we should upgrade, why we need time on the calendar, and all of those things. So in a sense, in that specific sense, the project was about me. I accomplished those things. On the flip side, there were things that happened that had very little to do with me.
Sorry, I lost our screen for a second. We're back.
We're gone. Where do we go?
To do with things that you did, Sean, or that Anthony did, or that an unseen person on a phone call did for the third party support company. But it's interesting. Imposter syndrome is, as you said, it ebbs and flows. Sometimes we don't feel it. Sometimes it feels like that's the only thing we feel.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to a lot of different things that you said. It's the fear and safety in the workplace. It's also just that. Well, I think another factor in imposter syndrome is that there's just a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what part of IT you're in. There's a lot to learn. It doesn't matter, maybe you're a
Oh yeah.
system administrator. Maybe you're trying to get into cloud. Heaven help you if you're trying to get into cloud, because there's way more to learn than you can possibly
Yeah.
even really think about it. It's, as a data professional, let's look at SQL Server, because that's what we all know. So there's the database engine where queries run.
Mm-hmm.
There's integration services for extract, transform, and load data, so we get to move things around.
I'm sorry, extract, load, and transform data. Is that what you said?
You can also do that too. Uh,
Transformers. Yep. Robots in disguise.
there's there's reporting services where you can visualize the data. There's analysis services where you can put it in a cube in a warehouse, and or a data lake, because I know you're going to bring it up, and um, slice and dice it and that kind of stuff. But every one of those four things I just mentioned is a career unto itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And software engineers have to. I don't know how you survive, Grady. I can't. I mean, I couldn't imagine.
Obviously
learning.
not as long as some.
You're doing fine. Stop that.
Well, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So I guess
stop.
that
Yeah.
goes right back into my points of terrible accepting compliments, but the opposite side of obviously criticism.
Yeah.
I think we all are aware how terrible we are accepting compliments. I think that's kind of a known thing. We pass them off a lot. We usually say no problem when really it was a huge problem. Like, oh, no problem. Like, that was 2 days of work that I could have avoided if you didn't do what you did, but no problem.
Yeah.
You're logged in while the family's watching a movie.
Yeah. People don't see that stuff.
Well,
So
I think we're
so when
afraid
it,
of making other people feel bad.
yeah, well, yeah, and that's why when it comes to criticism, we also take criticism a lot harder than someone who thinks they know all the answers. If you tell someone who thinks they know all the answers that they're wrong, usually they're like, whatever, because
Yeah.
No,
that's how
you're
they are.
wrong.
Yeah, like, no, you're wrong. If someone comes up to me and says, that thing you did was just totally wrong, I'm like, well, I'm dead for a week because that's going to replay in my head for the rest of my life. So thank you. That's how
Right.
some of us are wired. And obviously, you work on that over time, and you figure out what's a real criticism that you can actually act on, and what's something that is like, okay, yeah, I'll just do better next time. Like sometimes, like, hey, don't do it that way, do it this way. Okay, I can like deal with that.
Yeah.
But that is people that usually fall towards this imposter syndrome are like we said, usually professional type people, usually a little more successful in their career already, and they're at a place where they feel they don't deserve. So they have to already kind of have been in their career for a minute to get to something they feel they don't deserve. So however high that takes in someone's career is obviously different for everybody. They're usually higher achievers, so usually they get to their point in the career where they feel it faster than they should, which is very normal for a high achiever. You get somewhere faster in your career. So you might see someone next to you that's 10 years older, that's your peer, and you're thinking, well, he just got to this position. That means I shouldn't be here because he has more experience. And so that's something you throw around.
Yeah.
So usually you have to be already kind of a higher achiever to feel this, which in the professional world, most people are. I mean, honestly, I would say the 70% that feel this are probably 70% of IT or professional world strive to be high achievers. They're working to put food on the table, and any advancement I get in my career, I'm taking it and doing what I can with it. So, and then so overall, any field or place where the appearance of intellect or intelligence is either critical for success or is looked at as successful. So in the IT world, the appearance of intelligence is how you judge someone if they're successful. If I look at someone like Lee and he's always spouting off the SQL stuff and I'm like, I'm trying to learn, but you are very intelligent in your field. So therefore I say you are successful in your field. It seems to be a pretty decent correlation there. Which also is why it applies a lot to students. Going through college and stuff like that. They see their peers getting, A's, and they're also getting A's, but their peers might be doing sports too. Something extra that they think, man, they can get A's and do sports and have a chess club and go out and have a girlfriend. I can barely get A's just not doing any of that. So, you start
through college,
comparing yourself.
Girlfriends?
Right.
Don't get worked up, Anthony.
Going back to school
with that.
So yeah, it's pretty much anybody that compares themselves with other people in their field. Some fields don't have that. Some it's you go to your job, you do your job. You have a set lane.
Yeah.
You do that, you leave, and that's fine. That's my dad's like that. He's on assembly. That's great. It's a living. It's awesome. They might not feel that as much. Now, whenever you're in that, especially like we're obviously talking IT world, you tend to feel it a lot more because everything is always different. Like Anthony was saying, every day might be a different problem. You might have 6 problems that no one's ever seen in your company at that day. Luckily, Stack Overflow has seen everything in ever, but that also makes me. Well, I'll say that also makes me feel good when I look something up and I find it. I'm like, thank you. That means everybody has this issue, or at least one other person.
On the flip side, I go to
or unless 2 other people. Yeah, at least 2 other people have it, as long as it's answered. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that?
I end up answering. I said, except for those times you go in and you see all the open questions you have and no one's answered it, and then you end up figuring out, and then you answer it, and you're like, oh, cool. Mm-hmm. And then the next day you're back to thinking, you don't know nothing, but no.
Should I go revise my answer? Because it was a
little
wordy.
Here's a thought I just had too about when you were talking, Grady, about different fields. People in different fields might feel it less or maybe none at all.
Yeah.
I don't know why this just came to mind, but I was thinking about the idea of competition.
Yeah.
And I think it's because so in the IT world, there's a group of software developers in your area, and everybody, well, most people want to advance in some way. And so when you think about advancement, usually not only do you think about improving yourself, but you think about where am I in relation to the woman sitting next to me?
Yeah.
Where am I in relation to the new guy who got hired 2 weeks ago? Am I this is am I better than him?
Well, yeah, no, that's exactly
better than me.
That's what happens in your brain, whether you like it or not. Yeah. That's what happens.
How do I rank?
So we've got to stop doing that. We really do.
I agree.
I think I would love to, but I feel like that's just human nature of us saying I mean, it works out well here because we're all different fields, so I never have to feel that. I feel like I'm like, oh no, like you guys aren't software engineers. I rank at the top software engineer on this call. Hell yeah. But yeah, no, it's definitely something that you and that's usually who falls more prey to this is people who are hypersensitive about knowing the people around them. So like peers come up to me and we're talking and we leave, the conversation, we separate. And in my mind, I think either that guy was successful because he knows exactly what he was talking about. He answered all my questions. Or I will say, I feel like I did not ask the right questions. I feel like I did not do something. So leaving a conversation is going to be either a positive on that person or a negative on me. And that's what leads into that imposter trap is we don't go for the negative of the other person. We don't look at the positives of ourselves. We only see what other people let us see. But we know everything about us.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
it's like, yeah, if all I see from you is hard work and smart things and lectures about how to not break SQL, then I'm like, he's a smart, that's all he freaking knows is smart stuff. But in reality, it's like, no, you have a whole broad aspect of your entire life that I have never even tapped into because it just hasn't come up. It's
Right.
there's other aspects besides being smart in IT, and we
see-
don't
you
always
see
display them to each
others-
other.
You see other people's achievements, their accolades and everything, and you don't always see the blood, sweat, and tears and
Mhm.
everything that went into it. And so you might start thinking, oh well, that just came naturally to them. But maybe they knew the thing because they use the term all the time. They stubbed the toe on already. Once you stub your toe on something, you tend to dodge it, right? And
Mhm.
they just stub the toes enough times that now they're savvy. But you don't see that.
And so a couple of issues that can arise due to imposter syndrome. Well, I guess some of them issues, some are just things that happen, coping mechanisms. We kind of talked about trying to strive for perfection. A lot of times you'll paint yourself into a corner by saying, I want to be perfect at something. So you learn something and you get perfect at something. So that way there is no cracks for your imposter syndrome to break into it and say, no, I'm good at this. You say I'm good at this? Hell yeah, I'm good at this. This is my one thing. Now, obviously, in a career path, not always the best thing because technology changes. We have to adapt in IT. So we really don't want to paint ourselves into corners of technology.
Silver light.
Yeah. God.
Well, okay. Bring up a good point. So that's not always true. I feel like what you just said, what's the joke you always see in Reddit? I feel called out. Because that's 100% what I did. Not that far, a lot that far back in time in my career, the imposter syndrome was hitting hard.
Mhm.
I was having trouble communicating with one of the people above me. There was no personal problems there, but I just felt there's a little bit of trouble communicating there. And I translate that into, well, if I was actually good at my job, if I actually knew what I was talking about, or as one of those IT people who didn't get a CS degree.
Yeah.
I know there's others out there. Oh well, maybe if I did go to college,
there's a lot out there. Again,
I
no one talks about it, so no one knows.
There's a ton.
Mhm.
No one talks about it. And now, like, I have to remind myself sometimes. I still have to remind myself. I work with a lot of people who got a degree and something else didn't get a degree. I'm one of my counterparts that I work with now was a nurse. Was a fully trained nurse and switched over to IT. Like, you got to remind yourself that
I almost said I know someone who did that, and then I realized we would be talking about the same person, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So,
sorry.
No, it's okay. So
my brain kicks on sometimes and then says things and then kicks off again.
Yeah,
you're fine.
The mouth's on autopilot. That can get you in a lot of trouble. So yeah. So I said that resonates with me because I was having those struggles, and then I realized that there seems to be this soft spot, this little chink in the armor that everyone else is awesome at everything, but I found something that I'm already a little bit better than everybody else. So I doubled down, and you said that's not always a good idea. Well, sometimes it is. Sometimes the coping mechanism is, well, if I could bring myself to be the top 50%, okay, now I'm gonna bring myself to be the top 20% in a particular spot. Then if I
again, I'm not. And I, like I said, I wasn't
as long as that's
saying this as a negative. That these are coping mechanisms, not necessarily a negative thing. These are these are things that people do to combat it, which is, whether they work or not. Sometimes it's obviously a bad thing to paint yourself in a corner. Sometimes you make a new.
Yes.
You didn't really paint yourself into a corner. You made a new position. I mean, that was a career move for you. That opened up a new position that now you own a whole new set of responsibilities, as opposed to if I said I do nothing but Java. I'm going to stick with nothing but Java for the rest of my life because I'm good at it. It wouldn't get me, I mean, I'd probably be okay. You know, I'm not going to get a whole lot of new career advancements in newer technologies. That's not going to happen. I'm probably not going to go to newer companies. It's probably going to be older, established banking,
Legacy stuff.
Yeah. So could I keep a job? Yes. Would it be stagnant? Yes. And that's another part of things that came up here for coping mechanisms is job stagnation. Stagnation is you feel so lucky to be where you're at because you shouldn't be there. You know, that's how you're feeling. You feel you should not be where you're at. So you're not going to give up that job. Because no, the job wants me. I'm lucky I got here. Like, I don't know why they hired me. So even though we went through 15 interview processes and they had no problem the whole time, don't know why they hired me. I'm not going to try that again. I'm never going to get this lucky. Job,
like it's an accident.
You're stagnant. Yeah, you got that lucky spot and they must have really needed someone. They pull me in. When in reality, they're like, man, I don't know if we could pay this guy enough. Please, let's see if we can get him. Like that's the background. When you're thinking, there's no way this company wants me. I'm so glad that they took me. When they're thinking, I really hope this guy comes to our company. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. And that person can then come on for a while and they make a good impression because they want to, they feel like they have to.
Yes.
And I think hopefully to a certain degree, most new employees feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly the person with imposter syndrome, it's like, I have to prove to somebody that I belong here. But as you do that, hopefully over time in that career, in that position, and it can be even a short amount of time, 5 or 6 months, that person could begin to hear things like, we're so glad you're here. I really appreciate the work that you did on X because we didn't have a person to do that before.
Mm-hmm.
Those sorts of things. And then I also had a thought about that person who decides to double down and hang on to whatever little corner of the universe they have because they're scared. That person stays at the company forever. And they can, it depends on their attitude, of course, but in the extreme of a person who becomes difficult to deal with, they can become the resident expert that everyone has to work around.
Yes. I've
because now they own this corner of the technology in this company, and
even though they're like 5 years from retirement, and when they retire, the whole company is going to be like, "What the hell?" But we're not talking about an individual person or anything that we all know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I said it depends on the attitude of the person.
Yeah, and if you're okay with that, cool, that's your thing.
Yeah, and that person can still be open to new technologies, to new people coming in, and new things, and not feel threatened or scared. But I'm just saying, on the extreme, you could get that person who's like, well, technology X belongs to me, and we're always going to use this.
Yes.
Doesn't
always work out very well for them.
That's a different topic. I suppose.
That's a different.
That's
a different topic. That goes along with our wearing too many hats, because once that person leaves, you got to put that hat on. Have fun.
And then the imposter syndrome kicks in because you're like, I don't know what to do.
You're like, this. I'm a real imposter now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that does come down to my last little point here of what should we do about it? It's one of those. The first thing is to talk about it, is to bring it up to people, to make it known that we all feel kind of lost sometimes about what we're doing. Like if that's not a life metaphor in general, but I mean, at work we all feel kind of at times at least that how did we get here? Like we didn't do anything more special than the neighbor that lives next to me, but somehow I have a nicer job and people ask me questions about technology, and like somehow I'm a subject expert on certain things that I didn't even realize I knew more than other people. Like,
Yeah.
so you talk about it, and you let everybody know that it's normal, that we all feel this way, at least at times. And then obviously, if it gets to be an over-encompassing burden on you, then you do get there's professional help. You talk to a therapist about it. It might just be that you need some. I forgot what kind of therapy they called it. It's about helping you sort your thoughts out better. I'm not a professional therapist by any means. I shared my
Wait,
feelings
is that more
once.
imposter
So.
syndrome?
It sounds like cognitive behavioral therapy.
I think it was
only
yes,
know
yes,
that
yes.
because of my wife.
What?
Yeah, it
That's
is.
a $10 word.
Well, and that's why I'm like, I know it's a word, like it's a thing that people know. That is what it is. So there's ways to help you process things. And then and also to challenge these feelings. It's a lot easier said than done when you're in the moment and you feel good about yourself. It's easy to challenge your feelings. When something comes up and was like, shouldn't have made that mistake today. But if you feel like you had a good day that day and you're not feeling the imposter syndrome kicking in, you're like, nah, it's fine. That like mistakes happen. But if it's a rough day, challenging your feelings on something that happened that day it could be next to impossible. I mean, that's just how it goes. But you have to fight to try it. Think about, is anything that you're feeling actually validated with empirical evidence in the past of things that happened? If you did something and the last guy that did it got fired, maybe you don't have imposter syndrome, but maybe you should really be a little worried. Like, that's okay. It's not always imposter syndrome. Sometimes you made a big mistake. Maybe you should worry. That does happen. That you can lose jobs still. It's not a, well, I guess right now it's a lot harder to lose jobs, but still. And that comes down to, everybody's been where you're at. Everybody's been newer. Let's say you're just digging into a new technology. Everybody at some point in their life that deals with that technology dealt with it on the first day at some point for them. It may have been 5 years ago, but they had a first day of dealing with that technology, and they felt exactly the same as you did.
Mm-hmm.
With practice and time, they got to where they are. They're your peer. You look at them and think, I can't believe how smart they are in this technology when I know nothing about it. Well, you're on day 2. They're on year 5. Yes. Mm-hmm. Get better. Like, at that point, you need to learn some more. And it's fine. Not always imposter syndrome. And then again, that comes to my next one of you're not always in the spotlight. So things to remember with this is that everyone's not always watching just you. They don't have a micro focus on your job, your daily contributions to the company. They're not saying, "Oh, I saw Lee miss that quote. That call was down for 4 seconds." Do you believe that? No one cares. No one's actively watching this. And if they are, maybe you're at the wrong company. Maybe that company that you're at is just a little too much stress for you. Maybe some of the higher class government security stuff, maybe they do that. As far as top secret clearances and all that, they probably do watch you a lot more. But if in that point, if you feel overwhelmed by that, well, maybe that's not the job path for you, which is fine. Yeah, we've all switched careers and jobs, and it happens. But just to remember, everyone's not always watching everything you do. And it goes back to, all of your flaws, whether you can list them or you just inherently know them. It's that you know everything that's negative about you. You only know what everybody presents to you. Like we said earlier, you guys only know probably mostly of the positives you've heard about me, like, because overall you usually try to paint yourself in a more positive light than you feel you are. Now we're also
make you feel like you're faking.
Yeah. Which we're also friends, so we've talked, off stream about stupid stuff we've done, and we've all seen each other make mistakes from working together for a while. So it's like we also have a little more understanding once you once you've been incorporated with a group for long enough, it starts to help fade that imposter syndrome because you're openly talking about it. You're saying, here's the mistakes I made, or hey, last time I did this, I blew everything up. Make sure you do this. I'm like, thank you. So that I won't blow it up.
Yeah. You come running to the other person and go, I did it again. Can you fix it?
I deleted another table in prod.
I feel called out again. I feel like one of the first couple of conversations me and Lee had was, hey, Mr. Leeser, I need to restore a database because those where clauses. I think I forgot one. And okay, then there's an hour of our life.
I think one of my first conversations with Lee had to do with a certain policy on password storage.
Huh?
Okay.
And how password storage was being done. I believe it at that. But that was a thing that we first talked about. It got taken care of. But it's again, when you work with people one-on-one or in groups, it does start to fade over the years. The issue is, again, when you start a new company, when you start a new project, when you have trade shows or something you have to spin up, anything that's new or out of your norm opens up just a crack in the armor for imposter syndrome of, I'm the only one that has to do this. When in reality, it's like your whole team doing it, but you know how we think. It's like, okay, I need to do this, this, and this, and this. I have 10 things I have to get done. I don't know how to do 6 of them. I should not be here. Well, the rest of the team knows how to do 6 of them. I know how to do 4 of them. We're fine. It gets done. Whatever. But, what was this last? Oh, so there's this imposter syndrome. I have like maybe 5 minutes left, by the way. We're fine. Imposter syndrome is also one of the leading causes of low job satisfaction. And it seems not super connected, but it's, when you think about it, imposter syndrome leads to some sort of coping mechanism, usually avoidance coping, of saying, I'm just going to back off and do my job and hope that no one catches me because I make a good salary and I don't know what I'm doing. Because that's what our brains say. So usually it leads to something like that. And then keeping up that appearance, or the perception of that appearance in your brain, of always having to feel like you're putting on this mask of, I know what I'm doing. No one catch me. I'm not a fraud. I swear, I've done this before. Yeah. Keeping that up, it leads to just emotional exhaustion, because you have to do that 8 hours a day, and you get on, you're done. You're like, man, that was a rough day. When really, you didn't really do much that day. You just had a couple meetings, but all of that social interaction it just can be emotionally draining, trying to keep up that appearance, which in reality you shouldn't be needing anyway. So, but overall, being emotionally exhausted, coming to work every day emotionally exhausted, and draining your battery a little more and a little more, eventually a good night's sleep doesn't re-energize you. You wake up and you're like, God, it's only Tuesday. I thought it was Friday. It's driving me insane, So you get to that point and you just have no will to come to that job anymore, because you feel like, I just go there, I fake it, I get a paycheck, and I leave. I am not doing anything that's adding a contribution. I'm not furthering my career. I'm not doing anything that actually matters. And you start getting to some of those low points, and you have to remind yourself that you were there because of what you've done. Whether you've had some lucky breaks, whether you knew some people, or whether you didn't, you are at your current place because you want to be at your current place. I forgot who said it, but they said, anything you're currently doing, you're doing exactly what you want. Because if you didn't want to do it, you wouldn't. You would change it.
You would be doing something else.
Yeah, so when you say, oh, I didn't have time to go to the gym. No, you made a conscious decision to not put time on the calendar to go to your gym. You're doing exactly what you wanted, and you're playing video games. It's fine, but that's just call out the facts. You know?
Yeah.
So
Someone recently talked about how they frame it as I whatever it is that you're not getting done wasn't a priority. Something else was a
Yep.
higher priority for you.
Mhm.
Yep.
You know,
You chose your priorities.
exactly. I
Mhm.
chose to below 3 hours on PlayStation 3 because I'm exhausted from my job. I'm making this up.
Yep.
I mean, no, not really, but I mean
like
sometimes
no,
I've
I
done
am.
that.
But
Well, we
It-
all need
exhausted.
downtime sometimes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, so you're prioritizing downtime
Mhm.
by
Or
doing whatever you're doing.
prioritizing your
And you've been
mental health at that point.
sure.
Yeah.
But I agree. I love what you're saying there, Grady, about job satisfaction being low. And if you don't feel that, you're also on the flip side, you're not fighting for career advancement.
Oh, so
You're not fighting
It's
for
true.
a raise or a promotion.
well, we didn't talk about those other 30%. So 70% feel this on the regular, right?
Yeah.
Those other 30% need to feel this. If you don't feel this, you are not pushing for your potential. You are not outside your comfort zone. If you're in your comfort zone your whole life, that's fine. You can make a career that way. No problem. You can still have advancements, whatever. But if the 70% that feel this are the overachievers that push outside of their comfort zone, that try to advance themselves, that try to take on more than sometimes they can handle. And that's usually why they feel this. But so those other 30%, the way I see it, are either super subject matters. No, I don't see that. That's not true. Because I just thought in my head of some of the smartest people I know that feel this. So, no. The people that don't feel this have not advanced their career enough to feel it, in my opinion. Because
Sure.
I,
Yeah,
I,
I can
I
see
don't think I can think of anybody in a intellectual position above me or that I've met in my career that wouldn't feel this at some point in their career.
yeah.
So, but then as far as my side, I'm going to end with the fact that I shared with you guys earlier that I don't feel that I am qualified to be a subject matter expert on imposter syndrome and give a lecture on it, which is very ironic, obviously. And I caught myself as I was doing this, as I was researching this. I told you I have like 10 pages on this, but I caught myself and I'm like, I need to know so much more. I'm gonna get on. Man, I'm gonna look like an idiot. Like someone talk about imposter. I feel like I know nothing. Like, and I caught myself
No,
like
this is great.
Doing
man.
it.
like I'm so stupid. Like that's literally what I'm talking about. So I'm like, so bear in mind that even after research, even after doing this for 2 years and actually knowing about it, and looking into it for so long, that literally during the lecture I'm giving about imposter syndrome, I feel it. So
Yeah.
it's not something that's as easy to say as, well, let's just not feel imposter syndrome. It's like, okay, well, just don't breathe.
Yeah, no,
But
it doesn't
yeah.
work like that. You can't turn it off.
No.
Um,
And again, it's the more successful you get, the more you feel it, which pushes you to strive harder to be successful to catch up. But in striving hard to catch up, it leads to more promotions. It leads to higher raises. It leads to better job opportunities. And then you're like, hold on,
can.
I'm trying to catch up, and now I'm 14 years above what I thought I was at.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know,
And
I'm
then
just
you
gonna
feel like
ride.
you got to double
I think-
down to
Yeah.
So
keep up appearances.
I was thinking about coping mechanisms that you
Mhm.
mentioned, which were all great, by the way. But we talked about doubling down or focusing on something. And that can be a double-edged sword. If you pick the wrong thing, you will get burned.
Well, yeah.
So, when you're picking something like that, try to pick something, which I I guess we all assume that what we're going to pick is going to stick around for a while. Otherwise, we wouldn't
Yeah.
pick it. But
I'm gonna pick
something
Zune.
like, okay,
Right.
for example, T-SQL
Yeah.
or ANSI SQL maybe would be better. So if you double down on, I'm going to learn SQL, or as a purist might say, SQL. Um,
GIF,
I-
GIF, JSON,
we can have a
JSON.
debate right there. Anyway, so you
JSON.
can double down on SQL. SQL is not going to go away. Like it's
Yeah.
it's a permanent part of IT. I feel like,
Mhm.
and if you double down on that, then you're going to be in a good spot,
Yeah.
because companies always need somebody who's good at SQL, whether they know it or not. And there are plenty of jobs for SQL.
Yeah.
Now,
I think the
maybe
way that
there's
I look into that, as far as what I was saying about it, is not so much. I think SQL
Well-
would be too broad of a term when focusing.
yeah. Well, here's where I was going with that. So if I double down on something that is broad,
Mhm.
within that, I'll find a niche like performance tuning.
Okay.
And if I build that niche, I can become okay with, I don't know how to use SSIS because I don't need to.
Yeah.
I've built a career on making things go faster.
Yep.
And if you need SSIS help, I'm not your guy.
And that's okay.
And
Yeah,
that's
and
okay.
that's fine. Yeah, it would. But do you think that would lead to job stagnation though? Stagnation,
Uh,
or could it? I guess.
it could. However, I think that places always need that kind of expertise, and there are always things to learn about even SQL performance tuning, because database engines are changing. Every new release of MySQL or SQL Server, Postgres, they have new features, new things go into them. They surface new information about what's going on in the database engine. So it's a new thing for that Postgres SQL person to learn and be aware of and leverage at the appropriate time.
Yeah.
So yes, you could get comfortable and stagnant, but again, that's a choice that you eventually that's a choice.
Yes.
What do we
essentially.
mean? What do we mean when we say job stagnation? What is it you guys are referring to?
So as far as like, well, my previous job, job stagnation. God, I can't freaking talk. Stagnation means, or for me at least, means that upward mobility is limited, based on either
Okay.
based on either your knowledge or your actual field, that you've been into. So like some jobs, we know this in IT, don't have a next step up. There is nowhere to, at my last position of, I don't know what you want to call that, a software developer technically, but on the team that I was on, there was no real advancement opportunity. And I did that 100%. I went full force on where I was, that position. And you guys, I'm sure, saw that. Like, I made everything I could out of it.
Yeah.
But there was nowhere for me to go with it.
Right.
So I'm like,
there was no.
I painted myself into a corner here. I focused really good on doing of troubleshooting and maintaining applications in the niche of older applications, the legacy applications of Java, that I neglected newer technology. And now I feel imposter syndrome once again, going to my new company and doing full .NET and not being as spun up as I feel I should be after 6 years in IT or as a developer. So it's like I kind of shot myself in the foot by not moving on to new technologies when I knew I should have. Instead, I doubled down on older technologies because I knew that would keep me secure at a job, making an income. And I'm like,
Right.
whether it's the right choice or not, who knows? Because it did get me eventually to where I'm at now. But
So I have a question, Grady.
Mhm.
So how many? So you're the job that you're at now.
Yep.
In IT, is that your third, fourth, sixth job?
fourth.
Okay.
Yeah, fourth.
So I mean, I think there could be extenuating circumstances that led you to make those decisions, but part of it is, I think, and you tell me if this is true for you. I'll tell
Yeah.
you it was true for me. Early on in my career, when I got myself into IT,
Mm-hmm.
I was, I believed that, and partly because I had a great boss that I would still go work for if circumstances allowed. I felt like multi-year loyalty was like that's what I needed to do
Yep.
in order to build a career, and I didn't realize that that was the opposite of what I needed to do
Mm-hmm.
in terms of small to mid-range companies just they they don't offer a lot of opportunities a lot of times, and that also artificially keeps your salary low. And
Yes.
so I was just conjecturing or wondering, for me, um, I didn't, I stayed longer than I should have in that role because I
Mm-hmm.
was loyal to my boss, because he took really great care of me,
Yep.
and uh, and we had a great relationship where I could anticipate what he was going to need and provide it before he asked and all of those kinds of things. But it also kept me from moving on when I should have. And I, you know, similar situation. I'm working on older versions of SQL,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm coming to the realization that the place I'm at is always going to be on older versions, and if I'm
Yeah.
going to not get stuck, I have to leave this company. Um, so I'm just wondering maybe if next time, you'll see it sooner, you'll see it
Yeah.
quicker, and make the move quicker.
Yeah. And that is obviously the ultimate goal is to be able to call out when you are feeling the imposter syndrome kick in. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of my moves have been dictated by this. This last move was the first one that was not, and that move was for me, and that's it. There was no. It wasn't even about career advancement. It wasn't about monetary. It wasn't about. It was about me making the decision of knowing I'm letting something in my brain that I'm not trying to control make choices for me. I'm letting a fear make choices for me. And this was the
Okay.
first move I did that said, no, this move is one that makes sense for me. And this is when I also found out that, did you know people apply for jobs that they're not qualified for? Didn't know that was allowed. But I found
Oh,
that
it's
out
a
during
thing.
my research. Apparently, if you are more prone to imposter syndrome, you do not. So I don't. I find jobs that I hit every mark because there's less chance of failure. But
Yeah.
I mean, I also want to go in and start putting contributions into the company as soon as I get there. So I mean,
Sure.
it's probably a valid thing. But yeah, during this research, I found out that a lot of people apply for something they might have one or two of the criteria that they are needing, not the like wanted, but like we need this, 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 this. And if they have one of those, they apply, and sometimes they get them. I'm like, so there's a lot of real imposters out there that don't know what they're doing,
No,
I guess, but I don't know.
I would like to challenge that.
Maybe yeah. That was
No,
just
so
I'm
as
like
somebody,
they just figure it out? Like,
well, yeah. So okay, so as someone who's been spending a lot of time in the hiring process, as
oh yeah, you have yeah.
hiring help, yeah.
Mhm.
You put out a list, and this is something that needs to be out there, needs to be known. You put out a list of the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 25. Oh my gosh, no. but you put out your list of things that you want and need.
Yeah.
And yeah, if somebody says, yes, I've done all those things and I have a master's in underwater basket weaving, and that, yeah, I invented that. That would be great. And that, if they're a good fit, you'll hire them.
Yeah.
But no, when I'm talking to people, I'm trying to suss out whether they're hungry to learn and they want to get stuff done. And no, they don't need to cross all the spots, right? Yes, HR might run interference if there's a lot of candidates and say,
Well, yeah.
we want as many things crossed off as possible, and that's part of the job. And I shouldn't really even speak to that because I don't, that's above my pay grade, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
But
I mean, that
no,
makes sense. You want to have someone. If you have 3 people and one of them has all the check marks and one doesn't, well, yeah, obviously you're going to go with the, unless work ethic and whatever. But
right. But I mean, so what I'm getting at is, I'll use your example. You said there's 3 people, one of them checks all the boxes.
Yep.
But the second one is Grady, and honestly, after talking to him, it's a good fit. If Grady didn't send his resume because he didn't, TypeScript was on there, or he did Java instead of C# and didn't realize how similar they are in some ways, and they, one of them's not that much older than the other. Well, I guess 5 years is a lot of time in IT, but whatever.
yeah.
If I didn't get to talk to that candidate, I wouldn't get a chance to hire Grady, right?
Yeah. No,
So
that's true.
yeah, I think that's, I think that is, like you said. You said, well, if someone applied and they didn't have all the checkboxes, they're imposter. No, they're absolutely not. The person they
That's
talked
true.
to
That's true.
said,
You're right.
I like this person, right? And I want them on my team. So yeah, I just really wanted to challenge that.
No, yeah.
Because
Yeah, no, you're right. I'll
feeding
accept
your own.
that 100%.
Yeah, you're feeding your own imposter syndrome. You're going, next time you look at a list. Now it sounds like you're happy where you're at, but next time you look at a list or look at a promotion, you go, I'm only out of 10.
Yeah.
So what's the point? And that's wrong.
Yeah, and I'm not saying anybody don't apply for jobs that you don't qualify for if you feel you could be a good fit. But me personally, when I look, I feel like I try to find a job that's very on par with what I already know, that I can start bringing stuff right away. And again, that's me, something I need to work on, even going into a project. If we're using technologies in a new project that, they might list 5 technologies that we're going to use. If I know one of those, chances are I'm going to be like, oh, I'm going to do that one. When in reality, I should probably jump on one of the other ones and learn it to actually further my career instead of putting myself in a place of safety so that I feel better about myself. In the long term, the best thing that would, or the thing that would be better for me would be, why don't I assist if you guys need help in this one? I'm good at that. But I'm going to do one of these other technologies so that I can get better at that. As long as it's in your field. I mean, I'm not saying, jump out and do, whatever.
What, I wish that. So my thinking is, I agree with you, Grady. That would be great. I think that company culture often fights against what you just argued for, though, because a lot of companies want everything done yesterday.
Yeah.
And in order for that,
at the latest.
Yeah, at the latest. And in order for that to happen, they need their best people working on their best strengths.
Yeah.
Not the thing they want to learn. And so, I think it's really unfortunate. I think that I understand the drive to be first to market. I mean, intellectually, I've not lived it. I've not been a CEO at a big corporation. You're trying to get a product out before somebody else does. I've not had that experience.
Yeah,
but
I can understand that, though. Yeah.
From the employee perspective, I wish companies could slow down even just a little bit.
Yeah.
And
Tell
say,
me.
if you don't get this product out by October 1st, what is there a real consequence, or is this deadline just made up? Like, if October 1st is the beginning of some show, a trade show, a convention, a something,
Just live that.
Okay, then
It sounds familiar,
then
but
Yeah.
that deadline is real.
Yeah.
But if it's a sprint and you just are hoping to get these 4 things built, what happens if they don't get built? Does the business stop losing money or stop making money?
yeah,
Probably not. What's the big deal if it takes an extra sprint
Yeah.
because I wanted to work in Postgres this time to see if I could learn it. There's another person who kind of understands it, and I want to work with them.
yeah,
Does that 2 weeks really hurt anything? I mean, probably not. I don't think it does. I wish companies would think more along those lines, because the next time a Postgres project comes up, I'm going to be interested in it, unless I
Mhm.
hated it, of course.
Oh yeah,
But also, what if the Postgres person leaves
yep.
and the company never let anybody else work on Postgres? Now they got nobody.
Yeah.
But if
Frustrating.
they would let, me or Anthony work on Postgres with the current Postgres people, then when that person left, you still have some resources.
Yep.
Who kind of sort of can do something with it.
Yeah,
I
I
wish
100% agree.
companies,
Mhm.
thought more along those lines.
Yeah, I feel like it's one way or the other. Either they want you to work on everything, and again, I think this gets into the 100 hat topic we're gonna have one of these weeks. But either they expect you to do a lot more than what you are capable of, time wise, mentally, or they expect you to only stick to your field. And I feel like those are the two I've
Jack
seen
of
at
all
least.
trades
Yeah,
versus specialist.
you're just front end, or you do everything in IT. You do, like, we're also need the trash taken out. I need you to do that too. Like, all right, well, I guess sure. If
And
that's what
by
you
the way,
think of me.
be sure that while you're taking the trash out, you're still writing code, because your deadline doesn't move.
Yes, deadlines don't move. Yeah, so. No, I'm very very grateful to be at a place at this point in my life that is not deadline focused. At least not yet, and not historically that I've heard of. So it's very
Pretty cool.
opens up a little mental sanity that we've all experienced. I'm not saying that's going to be always, but we always have something that a server goes down. You have an unwritten deadline whether you want it or not. It's get that server
Yeah.
back up. Win.
Oh,
Like
sure.
now. Like servers down.
Yeah.
But yeah. So overall, that's kind of my my TED talk on imposter syndrome. I do recommend going to check out some videos. I'll put them in the Discord. And let me put up the
Just
Discord.
I just noticed recent follower at Tom Woolworth. When that happened, did I miss that?
It says 3 days ago. Here, let's
It's
make
3
it
days
happen
ago.
again. Oh, hey, thanks, Tom.
Hey, Tom
Um,
Woolworth.
Hey.
but
Thanks, Tom.
yeah, I'll put some links in the Discord, and kind of some things that videos and links that I found that really broke it down in more simplistic terms. Because when it comes to this like psychology stuff, and like my sister's a psych major and she's some kind of psychological health worker now. She'd be like, "Well, you don't know what I do." But she's better at like knowing this cognitive stuff, and she's discussed military background before. And Cave said it's expired. Let me grab a new Discord link. Invite, copy. Okay. But yeah, so I was saying my sister has kind of psychoanalyzed me before, but a lot of this is more her wheelhouse as far as how a person thinks, how you interpret things, how you perceive the outside world, metacognitions. So some of these videos help break it down to a lot more simplistic things that I understood a lot more. In the IT field, we tend to be more analog, ones and zeros, as far as is this how it is or is this not how it is? They're like, well, sometimes I'm like, no, give me the situation that it's not like that, and then we'll departmentalize that over here. It seems to be at least an overall trend of IT people that we like to compartmentalize different types of data in different places. Like
Yeah.
that
I'm
is
definitely guilty of that.
here. I have a whole shelf. It's like this goes here, this goes here. My wife come by, knock it down. That's just how it goes.
Yeah. So in the SQL Server world for DBAs, the joke is that the answer is always it depends.
Yeah, I mean,
but,
honestly,
but better, well, more experienced folks have always have said you need to follow it depends with what it depends on. It depends on blah.
Yeah.
So that you can do what you were talking about, Grady, and you can say, okay, here's the answer in this moment. Here's the answer for this moment. Here's the answer for this moment. Even though it might be the same technology, this is how it applies here, and here.
Yep.
Different scenarios. So
yeah, that's kind of how these videos are. So I'm glad that you understand what I'm talking about.
yeah.
I'm like, I need to find videos that explain it how I need it explained. They're like, how was that? I'm like, I'll find the video.
Right.
Yep.
Like, I don't know how. There's a certain method of explaining that works on me, but I can't like pinpoint it. I can find it, but I can't pinpoint it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, overall, like I said, I always recommend that people, like I said, I'll drop links, but I suggest doing, your own research as well. Everybody learns differently. Some people are better at white pages or white papers, and some people are, better at listening to a video. I say white paper as far as from a engineering standpoint, I guess, but like a wiki kind of thing, like just a one-page thing that says, hey, here's kind of a
white
He was
pages.
joking.
You said white pages.
I did
And
say white pages.
I
It's like the
thought
yellow
maybe I was
pages,
the
but
only-
that's where they put personal data. Come on.
Okay, that's good. That's good. See, I thought maybe I
Obviously
might be the
not a
only person on this
mistake.
call who would know what the white pages was.
I know white pages. I mean,
So you put it under your monitor to make it taller.
I was like, I don't get them anymore, but I mean,
yeah,
I
you
did
can
when
do
I
that.
was younger. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, and I obviously I took up the entire time plus plenty for this talk, but I do feel like it's important to get out there, and the first step is always the conversation. Maybe someone will go talk to someone at work and be like, "Hey, you heard about imposter syndrome? Do you feel like you don't belong here all the time?" And they'll be like, "Yes." And I'm like, "So do I." Like we're all like that. But yeah. So that was my TED talk. I don't know.
No,
It's been
yeah.
great conversation.
And then
Sure, and I think it's very helpful.
Good. I thought, like I said, I want to bring some soft skills in here every now and then, and to show how we're not all different. We're all very, very similar, even though we have a lot of different job descriptions and different parts of the field.
Yeah.
The overall premise of kind of how we deal with the culture or the workplace in general is going to be very similar. At least in many cases. In some, they're going to differ completely. So, we'll be able to talk about those on here as well. Do you guys have topics for next week yet? Or do we want to just discuss that off stream?
Go ahead, Anthony.
I was gonna say, so we might need to discuss whether or not we want to show up with multiple topics from now on or not. Like, for example, this is the second time where we didn't get through all of them, and yours ended up being
I knew mine was probably going to be a full hour. That's why I put it on there. I'm like, by the way, guys.
that's
talking
okay.
about
So, but I just maybe we need to kind of mull that over. I know we're trying to stay flexible because we never know when we might start getting like last stream we had conversations with the chat. This stream not so much.
Yep.
So we can figure all that out. Like the topic that I was to talk about, we could totally just use that next time, unless something else inspires us. Lee had a good one too. So
yeah,
we could just go on that route.
yeah, I've seen a couple of good ones. And then for anybody obviously watching, if you go to our Discord, you can always drop any of your stream ideas into the stream topic ideas channel. We'll check it over, and if we like your idea or it seems relevant to talk about, we can we can definitely, make a week maybe that we just do user ideas or user submissions
Sure.
and just kind of bring up. We can roll through each one and kind of talk about them on the fly, honestly, and it might make a good week for the viewers. So, yeah. But as far as time wise, we're sitting around 8:42, and I think we could probably call it here. Do you guys have any closing arguments, closing statements?
Java's not always legacy. Some places use it, love it. I know some new
Oh, yeah,
technology
no,
that's
yeah.
built on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a bad habit we picked up from the place we all work
I
together.
agree.
At.
Yeah.
They use that term because they switch technologies, and it
Yes.
kind of sticks with you when you live that for a couple of years. So
I agree.
Someday we're gonna have a bunch of people listening, and some of them are gonna be building awesome things with Java. And they're like, what'd you say? So
They'll be calling me, be like, "Do you still know Java?"
yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
We can have our favorite languages. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that.
And then say also, if everybody sticks around, we can do a raid here on to. Let's see who we can raid. Well, we raided Fish last time, so let's go and bring you over to I just clicked on like 3 people and all of them went offline as I clicked them, so hold on.
Of course.
They're hiding from you.
No, we can.
Ran.
I say we can actually. Let's just send everybody back to Brofish again, because that's a safe one. It's one of those you try not to send people that are too vulgar or crazy. Some of my buddies are a little over the top. Fish is a really cool streamer. Go drop her a follow, and go say hi, and I will send everybody over there now. So, Grady signing off. I'll catch everybody next time.
All right. See you later.
Bye, everybody.